evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order February 12th at 4:30. At any time, you can declare a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. And at this time, I'd like to call upon Luke and Barb from Westland Insurance to do their delegate for the evening. Welcome. You just have to hit the bottom for the, yeah, there you go. Yep.
Hear me? Okay, I've got a handout I would just like to hand out to everyone. All right. So I'll start. Most of you wouldn't know who I am. For those of you who don't, which I think is most of you, my name is Luke Romanek. I'm based out of Fort Francis, born and raised in northwestern Ontario. I'm the municipal lead for our neck of the woods with Westland, formerly Gillen's. I've been in the industry for a little over 11 years now, in commercial coming up to 9 years. So I've been working in the municipal segment for pretty much since day one I went into commercial, and handle quite a few municipalities in northwestern Ontario myself, and then offered support as a lead to the other brokers in northwestern Ontario who deal with municipalities. So I would just draw your attention to this handout that we gave you. I'll just kind of go page by page and speak to it. Barb's obviously going to chime in here and there. But if there's any questions, that's kind of the goal today is to answer any of those and go from there. So the first page is basically just talks about who we're talking about today, which is the corporation, and the municipal program that you're insured with currently is through Marsh Canada. So that's pretty much all that matters on the first page. The second page there is just a little blurb about Westland. So as most of you probably know, Gillen's Insurance has been around for nearly 100 years and were acquired by Westland Insurance Group. Head office is in Surrey, British Columbia for Westland, and currently we're the largest independent Canadian broker in the country, Canadian-owned broker in the country. So the team that we have is actually over 3,000 employees now, and we have over 200 locations from coast to coast. So that number is continually expanding by the month, it seems, but we're just a constantly growing organization, and you are seeing a lot of consolidation in the insurance brokerage world, as well as in a lot of different industries. So we do have a strong focus on our people and our communities that we deal with, and I think most of you know that Barb has always been very committed to the town of Atikokan and is very involved in a lot of different things here. So again, we do leverage our broker network across the country, so we do have a lot of expertise in different segments, in different parts of the country, which we're able to leverage. And I would consider myself somewhat of an expert in the municipal segment, so I've helped with RFPs in Western Canada as an example. So just again, who the professionals are that you're here again is Barb and myself. I'm the municipal lead, like I mentioned, and Barb handles the day-to-day functions for the town. So if we go to the next page, I won't go through all of these, but these are just some contributing factors that are increasing claims costs in the municipal segment. I've pulled a lot of these from a document, which I can actually share with you afterwards. It's from Intact Public Entities, and you can actually go on their website. They have what's called a Center of Excellence, where you can pull a lot of this information from. But there's a number of contributing factors: climate change, cyber attacks, which are certainly at the forefront. I don't know if you read recently about the city of Sudbury and a fairly substantial cyber attack there. Joint and several liability, which I think most of you are all familiar with, class actions, the changing legal landscape in Canada, future care costs, which there's some shocking numbers there, just in relation to where some of these claims are settling at, and just defense costs are increasing overall, as we're all aware of inflation. So I would just say some notes on kind of the current market. I would say we're in a firm market condition right now. We were in what would be considered hard market condition, where we're seeing fairly substantial double-digit increases across the board. And traditionally, the insurance market is either in soft or hard market, and it does seem like this firm market or hard market that we've been in and we're kind of slowly coming out of has dragged on for a number of years now. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so we're getting there. So just the next page. This is more so just for information purposes for you, but there's really 4 main municipal insurers in Ontario. Intact Public Entity would be the largest. They have approximately 48% of the market share. Marsh Canada, which is the second largest, they have about 40% of the market share. And again, these numbers are fluid, so they change each year, but these are approximates. And then the remaining 2 would be Aon and BFL. So the municipality or the town we used to have with BFL, we actually moved them to JLT Canada back in 2017. JLT Canada has since become Marsh through acquisition. And the premium savings that the municipality or the town realized back in 2017 was about $12,000. Following that, we did go through what I would consider the hard market, which we're still slowly coming out of. And it was best to stay with your existing insurer because there were some larger municipal claims that happened. So you can see in just the highlighted section there at the bottom, we're showing the property claim in 2018. There was a snow load claim that was totaled about $279,000, which happened not long after you moved to JLT Canada. And then there's been some other claims since, which we just highlighted in the document that we provided, including some liability situations there. So we just wanted to show a history of the municipal insurance and where it's largely gone. So we through help with Barb, we just did a snapshot of what the annual premiums were over the last number of years and what those premium increases looked like. So you can see where it's gone up in 2018 there. We had, again, a claim throughout that year, came down a bit, and then it's gone up, and it's trending back down again. So largely, claims would have an impact on those premiums that you realize in terms of renewals.
The town never seen an increase when the rest of the municipalities in the region were seeing not just double-digit increases. Some municipalities were seeing 25 and 30 and 35% rate increases. Our town never seen them. One of the things may have been the fact that some of the claims didn't get settled out until later. So sometimes an insurer, when the claim doesn't get settled out for several years, doesn't get added on until later on. And so we kind of skimmed through, which like we were all breathing us.
Yeah, so Barb always asks to get a general market sense, and I always ask a lot of these insurers because they deal with municipalities in Southern Ontario and Eastern Ontario and throughout the province. So just to get a general sense of what we're seeing out there in the municipal marketplace. And, for example, this year, the high single digit, that's kind of the norm is what we're seeing for municipalities that have had a good claims history. I would say that the municipality has certainly had some pops in terms of claims. So, certainly this past year, I would say that's a reasonable renewal based on what we've seen out there in the marketplace. So again, that's averages. We try to get a general sense of what's what, and that obviously dictates what Barb would do in terms of looking out for a second option and go from there. So.
And there are issues with the town making, there are other options out there where we could move the account perhaps and it would cost more money. Like especially in the transit area, we have the luxury of having 2 senior transits here, which the cost would quadruple if I tried to move it. And the insurer that they're with right now, they don't have to have a specific driver. If I moved it, we'd have to have 1 specific driver or 2, and nobody else could drive.
So what Barb's saying is there's every insurer has different rules, and so we kind of know what those rules typically are, and there's nuances that in terms of drivers like Barb's referencing there. But we represent Intact Public Entity and Marsh Canada, so we do have 2 options for the municipality, which we've committed to checking the market this upcoming renewal here with Intact Public Entity for the municipality. But there are nuances to keep in mind, which we would certainly make sure are clear or we present to the municipality at that time for things like the transit buses and having appropriately experienced drivers, things like that. So again, just wanted to highlight some of the support that Westland's done over the years. The Rainy River District Municipal Association, going back to Gillen's, we've always contributed to that. Typically the lunch. Barb's always pushed for donations to the Atikokan town causes, which includes the Summer Kids program, and then obviously a lot of volunteer time as well over the years. We do take pride in having taxpayers in the community, and I think we can all agree that Barb, I think, insures most of the town. So, and our community or our businesses here as well. And just for reference sake, Barb's looked after the municipal insurance policies for over 30 years on and off. There was a period of time where it did go to a competitor, but it's came back and we've had it for quite a number of years. Just in terms of risk management, kind of over and above in Northwestern Ontario, where we live, it's challenging to get risk managers from these insurers that a lot of them are based in Toronto. So we've always, in the past, sometimes we've done road shows where we've come to different municipalities. I just wanted to highlight some of the virtual risk management conferences and in-person risk management conferences we've done over the years, which we've always tried to invite the town to. So the last one we did was a virtual one in 2021, where we did that in partnership with Frank Cowan, which is now Intact Public Entities. So there was an invite for the town to come to that, and we try to extend that to all the municipal clients that we have and have relevant topics presented on at that time. We also did an in-person one in Fort Francis in partnership with Frank Cowan, where we did have a municipal defense lawyer speak, an anatomy of litigation was what it was called, and just explaining what that process looks like. And I believe we did have a representative attend that one. So we do try and do those things to provide, current risk management, feedback and support for, admin staff for municipalities and councillors if they'd like to attend that, because it is, the landscape is changing quickly. So we'll look to do that again. It's just lining things up and when we can make it work for everyone. So outside of that, I don't think there was anything else outside of questions.
Kimmy?
Councillor Rock.
I just want to thank you guys for coming here today and helping us understand this insurance issue, because a lot of people don't understand it and it's hard to get our heads around. One of the things I'm going to ask is, how long does a claim stay on your record? Like we've been no claims since 2021, and I see some of these on the list go back into 2018. How long is that going to be reflected in our rates?
So generally, they look at a 10-year claims history in the municipal space, generally what we see. So they like to look back because some of those claims are longer in nature or take time to settle. But generally, 10 years is the snapshot they like to see in terms of claims.
So we just had a claim settled out not long ago that was probably hitting the 6 and 7 year mark. Like, you know, that was substantial. So it doesn't even show up on here. Like, so it was well over 200 on that one. Close to that. There's also a lightning loss here to one of the pump stations that that was 300,000. And so it takes a while before all these things show up. Like, you may have the loss today, we may not have the payout for 3 or 4 years. Like the lightning loss that we're talking about was still with the old insurance company, and it still basically just got paid out in the last little bit, because obviously those things don't get fixed, and yeah.
And that would have been with the prior insurer,
Yeah.
BFL. But if a claim does come in, then typically they'll set a reserve at what they think that claim will cost, but that's a moving target, and that can change every renewal if it's not settled. So it might go up, it might come down, and then the final settlement when it's closed is what it is, depending on the type of claim.
So that, even though it's a change of insurance companies,
It still can,
history
it's still, because you know what, and if we try to approach another insurer, that's what they're gonna want that 10-year window.
right?
So that's what we're saying, so even though it occurred 6 and 7 years ago, it's still gonna come back and haunt us if we try to move somewhere else. I can speak on behalf of, way back in Gillen's and the Don Boyd insurance world. The municipalities come a long ways. In 1996, we lost the municipality account to Aon because at that time, Frank Cowan, which is now IPE, no longer wanted to insure the municipality because of the number of losses. Since then, it's helped with us having risk management. They can come in and speak to the council, of what has to happen in the event of losses, to prevent slips and falls and things that are going to cost the municipality money.
One other question, Madam Chair. If we take some of this risk management training courses, educate ourselves, would that reflect, would we get credit for that in our rates if you went to our insurers and say that, department heads, council, receives education on this?
It may in negotiation.
I mean, we would certainly mention it. We would certainly bring it forth and highlight all the good things that you're doing. But ultimately, you'd be doing yourself a service by preventing future claims. If you don't have future claims, then that would help keep your premiums down. As other claims fall off over the years, then there might be more options available to you.
Educating department heads on the need for certificates of insurance. They can to move the risk. They can certificate, so that the town is not, you're renting a piece of property to somebody else, have them produce a certificate of insurance. So in the event that there's a loss there, it takes that risk away from the town and onto their insurance policy. Town will always be held. You'll see in some of the notes that that'll come up. The town may always be named because you're the owner of the property. Under the Municipal Roads Act and stuff, now I see that they will hold you at least 1% at fault.
Yeah, it's trying to do your due diligence, right? But ultimately, unfortunately, there's the perception that municipalities have deep pockets, even though they don't. And so you're always going to have a target. And you have a lot of operations and a lot of property you own that you have to maintain, and things can happen. So
if you can show a judge that you've done your due diligence to make sure that you've done everything that you could to make sure something wasn't gonna happen, or the public was aware of it. That's the big thing.
Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the town does all its due diligence, plowing, sanding, warning signs, whatever, and somebody still slips and falls, are we still liable? Or are we liable to a less extent?
Yeah, I mean, you could be, obviously. I mean, I don't want to say whether you would or wouldn't be liable, but ultimately, if you're doing everything that you possibly can be, unfortunately, there's still circumstances where judges can rule right, find a small reason why you didn't do something, or maybe contributed to. There's no way to be perfect, I don't think. You can try, though. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
I have one more, and it's just kind of along the lines of what Councillor Johnson said about being duly diligent and doing what we're supposed to be doing. So what, if we have bylaws that we are supposed to enforce, but the town's not enforcing them, and something happened as a result of something that's supposed to be covered by a bylaw, would we be more exposed?
What exactly would you?
Okay, I'll give you for instance, the bylaw against feeding wild animals. And the town doesn't enforce the bylaw. And somebody has a collision with a deer, or a deer hurts a resident, would the town be more exposed because we have never laid a charge for anybody, but people know that it goes on? Pardon me, Barbara?
Depends on what the public courts would view that, like.
I mean, you would have to provide a defense for that, and I would think that a lawyer that is suing would pick up on that and use that to come after
Against
you.
you, yeah.
So I would think that that would hurt you by doing so, but I couldn't speak to how much or.
Okay,
More
We'd
of,
have to
that's a
talk
more
to
of
a
a,
claims
yeah, that's a
or a lawyer.
that's a legal, like,
okay,
that's a.
I tried, thanks.
Somebody that
We don't
makes
wanna get
more money
outside
than-
of
I know you're not
here.
lawyers, I know
No.
you're not lawyers, so.
Somebody
There's
that
others
makes
here
more
that
money
might
than
be
us.
able to speak.
Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Um, how many other municipalities do you insure like us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, so we insure about 2/3 of the municipalities in northwestern Ontario.
Okay, thank you.
There's about 35, I think we have 23 of them.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Knowles? You're on mute.
I know. I'm working on it. Thank you. I appreciate that the insurance rates have been very steady for the past number of years. Do you have some sort of sense of what they might be looking like in the next 3 to 5 years?
I hate to answer that question because I don't know where the world's going. We've got a lot of crazy weather events happening. There's inflation. There's a lot of factors that could certainly contribute to the cost of insurance. I remember when I first started dealing with municipalities, you know, a 2 to 3% increase was a lot, and it's changed a lot since then. So I'd like to think that I'm hoping that rates are getting to a more stable level today. But if you look at where inflation is, it's still fairly stubborn, I would say. So I hope it levels off, but I can't give you a firm answer on where it's gonna go.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Well, at this time, I'd like to thank Luke and Barb for doing this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Moving on to Committee of the Whole reports, Public Works, Northern Waterworks Incorporated. I'll turn that over to Tyler.
So, do I have to repeat all that, or are we good? Yeah. So as you guys can see, report in front of you outlining the current situation. Agreement runs out next year. So at this point, we have to decide if we're going to renew or go to market for the services. I've laid out the costs there for you guys. Those don't include any chemical adjustments, depending on heavy or dry years.
Oh, sorry, Janelle. Councillor Zacharias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it says here, like, we could cancel, your recommendation is to go to market, and you say you potentially get better rates for this service, but how, do you have like an idea of what rates are going for now?
Absolutely not. Every system's different, so it's just a balancing act of if somebody wants to come into town and get one more plant under their belt. The other option, of course, is to just renew it and carry on. I got the second option in there of doing the duties in-house, but that would be an absolute nightmare that we don't want to go down. So
No. Okay, thank you.
and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we shouldn't renew them. It's just there is a potential opportunity for cost savings. So.
Any other questions? Oh. Councillor Knowles. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If there's a change, for whatever reason, does that require a change in the people who are working there? So the people work for the company, I assume there, and they would need to be rehired through a new company, or would the new company bring in their own people? I'm just not familiar with the process.
That would be their decision. It would be purely speculation, but I would think they try and hire a couple of them just for that historical knowledge, but can't confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Ferguson?
Just in the financial impact, Tyler, it says the current contract is valued at $754,000. There's also an additional charge of $5,000 plus HST per month for an additional operator. I'm just wondering, if we have a contract for so much, why is it extra for an additional operator?
It's a pretty long story, but generally related to the sewer lawsuit. There was a lot of work going on, and they needed the extra hand on deck. And we're finding even now there's been a lot of sort of spin-off projects. So it used to be staffed by 3 people. They requested a 4th. We felt it was reasonable at the time, and as of right now, it's still quite reasonable. I mean, you figure if you're doing a pump repair, that's probably 3 operators, if not the 4th. So then you have your entire staff of operators over at one plant, and then the 4th is ideally checking off the other.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor McQuaid?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tyler, it says this, our previous, this work was previously performed by Aqua. Was that, did we go to market prior to that, or was that just like a takeover, or did they change? And basically, when was the last time we actually looked elsewhere? Okay.
Where NWI came in with essentially the takeover after the market.
Okay.
And as far as I know, that would be the last time we did, but I know there have been more companies come up since then.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, I want to call it by Mayor. Councillor Zacharias.
Thank you. Okay, so we have to give them a 1-year written notice of the intent to terminate, and then we go to market. And then everything's like $1 million plus. Can they then pitch us again, or like, are we just gonna put ourselves behind the 8 ball if everything's like way overinflated?
I would also would be able to direct us us to negotiate directly with them. That would be mainly just a issue of the procurement policy, I guess, at that point.
Okay. Even though we've terminated our contract way ahead of time before we went to market?
We have to give them 1 year notice if we intend to terminate. So, and then even still, if we do terminate, there's a fair bit of turnover and logistics behind an actual switch.
All right.
Jason? Almost.
And understand that Northern Waterworks most certainly can bid as well, right? It gives everyone an opportunity to sharpen their pencils, take a look at the services they're provided, and put in a new bid. As Tyler had mentioned, there was that extra charge for that fourth person. To clean that up, a new contract would kind of be all-encompassing, right? So it gives us an opportunity to negotiate that. When we have long-standing contracts that are working well, you'll see us, administration will come in and say, you know, we recommend renewing, but on a contract this large, and an opportunity to see, like Tyler had said, any new organizations out there that can offer the service, or just it's a good opportunity to review what we require and what the current agreement is, and that's why we're saying that we want to go to market. It's just to kind of review the contract, but Northern Waterworks most certainly has an opportunity to bid as well.
Thanks, Jason. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're looking for a recommendation today, Tyler? So my recommendation would be to go to market version.
Yeah, I'm looking hopefully for a recommendation unanimously or split, whatever it happens to be, for 1 to 3, because we got to act on this within the next couple weeks to get that letter out.
Any other questions?
Go to market? Yeah.
Or go to market? Are we in agreement on that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we have a show of hands just to make it official, or not needed? We're good?
Yep.
So at least 4 that counts.
Moving on, waste management bylaw updates. We'll turn that over to Tyler again.
So again, same as last time, we got the report in front of you guys. As you guys know, we were tasked with taking over waste management after the retirement of the previous contractor. So that meant some updates to the bylaw had to be completed. By and large, they're simply just removing the references to the contractor. However, we did also clean up some just language and some places of, I guess, interpretation differences between what we thought when drafting the bylaw and some of the feedback that we've got about how other people are interpreting that. So we cleaned some of that up. And then the main portion of what we're looking at here is to move forward with our operator attendant position out at Pipeline, now that we only have the one. So that would be ideally a certified or individual who can actually go out and run equipment on the regular and keep this all in-house. So with that would come a change in hours. We did hear from council and many members of the public that they want increased hours, both during the day and just overall. So the proposal in front of you would be to allow for 35 hours a week at the landfill, which would give us a 40-hour week attendant when you account for a half hour on either end to travel and open up the facility and do a little bit of plowing or closing up afterwards.
Thanks, Tyler. Any questions? Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tyler, have you given any thought to shutting the downtown at 5 o'clock in the evening?
I believe that is the proposed hours were 10 to 5, if I'm not mistaken here.
If you turn your attention to Schedule A, you'll have the proposed hours of operation.
So the new hours would be Sunday to Thursday, 10 to 5, which would mean a 9:30 to 5:30 shift for the operator attendant.
Thank you, Tyler. Any other questions?
No, just a comment that instead of closing Saturday and Monday, it'll be Friday and Saturday.
Correct,
Right.
yeah.
And I think that's only fair if we're looking to hire somebody or have somebody there to give them that split schedule, is kind of would reduce our pool of interested applicants.
That was the thought there, yeah. And then even still, making sure that we have Sunday available for the public, and then contractors, you know, they get the whole week minus a Friday. So significant increase in the service that we're providing. I'm not saying it's necessarily the level of service that would be required in a municipality this size, but that was the feedback that we got from the public and council, was that they wanted to see that increase. So you'll see under financial impact, going off some historical numbers, it looks like we should still be able to save a considerable amount of money. So.
Jason?
I just want to tag on to Tyler's comment. It's important to note, like he said, this is probably not, we don't need to be open this much, but we heard from contractors, we heard from council. We're going to try this. If council agrees, we want to move forward. In the future, we may come back with more information or data that either supports that or recommends something else. But we think it's important that we have that we get to this point where we have a union worker out there getting the work done, seeing how it goes, and as the mayor alluded to, having 2 consecutive days off are important. You'll also notice on Schedule A that we would additionally add some of the stat holidays that are listed in the current collective agreement, so that it would marry up with for the worker. So those are basically essentially the main 2 changes to the bylaw moving forward.
Mayor Ferguson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think with like one person, maybe the hours are longer and it's open longer, but that person, as Tyler alluded to, will be able to clean up, plow snow, do other things. So they are doing a full day's work out there, and it's more convenient with longer hours out if somebody those hours did fit them. You know, we could close it and have someone plowing snow. But if we can plow snow and have it open, I think it's a win-win that way too, if we have the right person to take the tokens as well as manage the landfill. That would be, I think that's a good trade-off. And
Any other questions? Thank you, Tyler. Oh, sorry, Gord, Mayor, Councillor Knowles.
Sorry, just keeping you on your toes. I just had one question. So if there's a person dedicated to doing this, and for whatever reason they're not there, whether they're on vacation or sick or whatever, there's an internal option, I assume, to take over those duties, and wouldn't need any sort of special training to be out there.
No, we've already got a few guys trained up on how to fulfill the attendant role. You know, things to look for, costs associated, things of that nature. So from there, it's just finding somebody, depending on the length of time, who can operate the equipment as well, which we do have a good supply of.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? Once again, thanks, Tyler. We'll move. Oh, Jason?
Just for clarity then, so the idea will be to bring the revised bylaw as attached to the agenda to the next council meeting for approval. That's what we're shooting for, yeah. But as it stands right now, everyone is in principle agreed with the proposed hours of operation. You know, the only reason I ask is because we want to move forward with the union with a letter of understanding and have that posting and have that person set up. So we're kind of looking for acknowledgement as far as the proposed hours of operation, if that's good. Yeah.
Councillor McQuay?
Thank you. Just, if it's the next council, do we have a timeline? Like, I mean, I've perused it and looked over. I would like to look over it a little further, and if there's anything that we have questions or something that we'd like changed, we can address it prior to. Is there a timeline you guys want that then?
Yeah, if you can provide comment directly to Tyler or through the clerk's department, okay. We can look at that before we bring the revised bylaw forward. Yep.
Wednesday before the meeting.
Okay. No, that's fair. Yep. Thank you.
Questions? We're good? Okay, moving on to Community Services. Department update. Tom.
Okay, I believe you had a chance to look at my update. Further to what was presented to you, Councilor Zacharias had a good question in regards to the stair lift at the arena. It has been functional for quite some time, and then from some reason it stopped working. We had our contractor come in and take a look at it. They alluded that it was similar to the same problems we had at the community center. We didn't feel terribly comfortable with that, so we've asked for a second opinion on what possibly could be wrong. That'll take place tomorrow. We have a couple issues at the community center, stair lift as well, that'll be addressed tomorrow morning. Other than that, is there?
Any questions from anyone? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair Shine. The fees bylaw that we're waiting on, Tom, is there any update when we haven't done anything with the fees for a number of years? I was wondering where we're at on that.
Yeah, Brandy and I have been going back and forth in terms of what I presented. Brandy's had some comments, so it is a work in progress.
Is there any time frame on when we may see some movement on that?
We can meet again.
I would say we're very close to the end of it. There's just some small issues, so it's a matter of Brandy and I having the time to sit down and actually go through this and make the changes and then bring it to council to present it. Jason and I had a good conversation about that last week as well. It's sooner than later type of thing. Let's get rolling on it. Okay.
One thing that bothers me is when, and it's great that we've got out-of-town people coming to use our facilities, but when the reason they're coming here is because we're way cheaper than everybody else, kind of puts me to the mind that, you know, maybe we're shorting ourselves on that.
We do have non-resident fees that we charge for people who come from out of town.
Councilor McQuay.
And it's substantially cheaper than anywhere else in the region.
Yeah.
Although it is substantially, thank you. Although it is substantially cheaper, we also have ice time. That's the other deciding factor, is that we actually have available ice time here. And when I was working with hockey, that's huge, right? Most arenas, a lot of the older kids are, you know, playing at 11, 12 at night. So that, and on the weekends. So we have like full day Saturday and most of Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
As well as I think it brings in children from other communities that allow them, our community children, to get, you know, exposed to playing other hockey players as well, you know, because we're just starting to see a big buildup in our hockey and
Oh yeah,
things like that.
definitely, you know, when
I understand
we
where
have
you're
teams
coming from.
play the Atikokan teams, or we have tournaments or something like that, that's great because the locals are involved. But if we're subsidizing, for a lack of a better word, people to come out of town, they don't spend a lot of money in our town. They come, they use our facility, which is great that it's getting used, but I'd rather see the ratepayers, taxpayers, get some relief on some of our facilities, that's all.
Any other questions? Moving on to streetlight banner project. Tom.
Okay, so I think there's a presentation that'll come up. We've had difficulty in the last couple of years dealing with the hanging baskets in terms of having the manpower to staff, to keep them moist. All it takes is a weekend of hot, dry weather, and we're in trouble with the flowers. So conversation has come up, and I was tasked to possibly come up with a different way of doing things. And one of the things that came across my desk was doing banners rather than hanging baskets. We would continue to have potted flowers downtown, the library, the wellness center, but the actual hanging baskets, we would go the route of banners. And this is common. I think everybody has seen these in different cities, particularly cities who are hosting event. You'll see, like Thunder Bay, for instance, they're hosting winter games right now. I'm quite certain you're going to see banners there. And there's a lot of varieties that we can look at. And so this brief little presentation is just to get the conversation going. We do have to make a decision which route we would like to go. do we want to continue with the hanging baskets because they need to be ordered? And then obviously we have to go to market to find someone who's going to take care of those hanging baskets, much like we've done in the past. Or we pursue an option like this. If you want to. So like we said, historically, this is what our Mackenzie has looked like, and a couple on O'Brien as well. And this is what we're moving towards. So that's what the banner would look like. You'd see brackets on the top, on the bottom. This is a single banner demonstration. And it can come in multitude of sizes and designs. You can have 2 per street light. You can have 2 different banners promoting the same event, or if you got more than one thing going on in town. It can be seasonal. These are easy to put up, easy to take down. So if we wanted to have a Christmas theme, a Remembrance Day theme, a summer theme, a fall theme, it's easy to do, relatively speaking. And we have our Naturally Wild. This is just to give you an example of what perhaps what we might put on the standard. Just things that are available, like the designs that we have now. I'm certainly not suggesting any of this. I would very much like to stay away from the artwork on this because I'm not very good at it. So, but these are just an example. These are a different Atikokan Naturally Wild. And we have our town logo. We have our Basque Classic. And these are all of the options that we can go with. And these designs, like I said, are just to get people thinking. The apparatus that we would use, you'd see, is very, very, very simple. There's nothing complicated about it. And these are the benefits of going with brackets. And there's a breakdown of prices. And this preliminary investigations based off 2 or 3 different locations in Ontario. We can examine further for price efficiencies, but they're not cheap. But as you can see in the next slide, over time, a cost comparison, you would see that we would have significant savings after year 4. Not that that's the nature of the game. Replacement flags, replacement brackets are built into that. I can't speak for sure whether or not that's an adequate number of replacements. But in the end, it's still it's an inexpensive way, or less expensive way, to decorate our community for a longer period of time, because as you remember, the flowers go up towards the end of May and they come down late September, weather dependent. And otherwise, we have nothing else on the streets.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions? Mayor, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Thank you, Mayor Chairperson. Tom, in sheer numbers, how many poles are you going to decorate? I don't want one here, one there.
Yeah.
It's got to look like it's been an effort to do it.
I think we have, I counted them out in terms of the number of banners. I have that information. I don't have it right in front of me, but we have calculated. We have a map actually of which poles traditionally had hanging baskets. And that's what we base this on. Not every pole, but just the ones that typically had the baskets in the past.
Good enough.
Mayor Ferguson.
Tom, have you discussed this with the economic development? Because I think they might have been interested in supporting something like this as well.
Yeah, there was preliminary conversation prior to Katie leaving at the tourism committee about all sorts of different, and even at the beautification committee prior to COVID type of thing. So this conversation has been circulating. It's just the difficulty we're finding is that we cannot maintain robust flowers along, and it becomes a liability for the aesthetics of the community when you're driving in. And as I said, the professionals are saying they should be watered every day. We're saying that in a matter of 2 days, we could start to lose them. Not only that, if we have a cold morning, which we've seen in the past as well, we can lose the flowers. It's very, very challenging based on the resources that we have to be able to maintain the hanging baskets.
Yeah. I was just looking at like a tourism angle or something like that, where we could partner with economic development or somebody to get some relief on. Maybe they could advertise some of their stuff. We could share some of the costs with them. I know it's tough to get like a HO, Northern Ontario Heritage Fund. I always get the acronym mixed up. It's tough to ask them for money for hanging baskets each year. But something like this that encourages tourism, that does those things, I think there might be an opportunity that we could partner with the economic development and they could maybe
And I
work
think
on something too.
For everybody to remember, we are supporting the CNO grant for the tourism coordinator. That position hasn't been filled yet, but I suspect that this would be right in the wheelhouse for tourism, that job. We are supporting that, and we're increasing our support for that position every year moving forward, or at least we have the option to continue to do that. At the moment, the tourism coordinator position isn't filled. Otherwise, they would be much more involved in researching this project.
And I think, sorry, and I think you alluded that they are pretty resilient and they're not going to fade out in a year, because nothing looks worse than a faded old sign.
Yeah.
This
is an industry for outdoor banners. There's no question about it that these are designed to withstand the elements here in Canada: the cold, the wind, the hot, the dry, the sun.
Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Tom, have you had a chance to speak with Wolf Thorburn? I know I was involved in, sorry, in some projects with the installation of the poles originally, and we had looked at banners, and there was a challenge with the design of those specific poles. So just whether you've had a chance to chat with him and maybe just get a little bit of historical context on that to make sure that that those brackets are fittable on those poles. And I just had a question about the price of the banners. That seems extremely good value, and I was just curious if that price had been from a real who would it come from, basically, because that's for us as a fabric that size with that sort of ability to last that long is quite cheap.
We looked at a couple sites, Banner Buzz being one. There's a couple other places online that, again, this is preliminary to try and get the conversation going. We weren't certain whether or not council would be receptive to this, if this is something we want to proceed. So those costs aren't hard. They're not firm. They're ballparks, but they're legitimate prices.
Okay. I would also just suggest to have some conversation, perhaps with some other communities, like of similar weather challenges that we have, even in places like Baudette, just to see what their experience has been with having these hanging banners, just as far as ongoing maintenance and that. Thanks.
Any other? Oh, Councillor McQuay?
Thanks, just a comment. I think Fort Francis just did this for the Remembrance Day banners, so they may have some information for you for that.
Well, I know from living in Winnipeg for 20 years, that was a popular way to decorate downtown and certain areas of the community. So, like I said, this is an industry. Outdoor banners is real. But Councilor Knowles, your comments in regards to the specificity of the poles, you're right. We'll look into that to make sure that we can actually get brackets. Preliminary, yes, from what I've looked into, that brackets come in all different sizes.
I have a question for you, Tom. So the Legion has been looking at doing the same thing as Fort Francis has been about getting banners made for Remembrance Day specifically. Would the Legion be allowed to hang their banners on our poles or use the bracket system, or?
Well, I would think that would be council's decision.
Council's decision?
In whatever direction we would implement it.
Okay.
If we wanted to change out the flags, we have that capacity. It's not labor intensive. In the beginning it is, but once they're up, they're up.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll be council's decision, probably through beautification committee getting direction as to what the banners are gonna look like. Are we gonna go this year? We really need direction in terms from council in terms of which way do we wanna go with this?
Do we have a feeling as Councillor Johnson, flags or flowers? Banners or flowers?
I like the banner idea, but I like the flower idea too, but I think there's a way to get both with the cost of the flowers not costing the township. So I would like to talk to you about that when we have our beautification committee meeting. But yeah, I like both.
Councillor McQuay?
I don't know what you got up your sleeve, but I kind of like both too, but banners, I'm all for it.
Mayor Ferguson?
I agree. I like the idea of the banners.
Councillor Zacharias?
Banners, I think eliminating the need for employees to go around watering and using all that water and all that time and effort and energy and planning and for, like you said, to have one cold weekend to ruin the whole thing. Banners.
Thank you. I'm for banners as well. Does that give you some direction, Tom and Jason?
The only thing now, once a banner's being designed, then it's go. It'll be quick. We're under less pressure with the banners than we are with the flowers because the flowers have to be pre-ordered. So from the sounds of things, it's given me a little bit of room. We just really need to decide what we want to put on the banner, and then send that artwork in, and away we go. And I can have these conversations with Jason, and we can share the ideas to council via email or whatever and do that. We don't have to wait for another council meeting. We'll get moving on this right away.
Thank you, Tom. You have anything, Jason? You're good? Okay, moving on to other business. The purchase of the 4th columbarium at Little Falls Cemetery. I'm going to turn that over to Sue.
Thank you, Chair Shine. In front of council, there's a report regarding purchase of a 4th columbarium. As everybody knows, it's been a struggle to actually get a quote, so I'm quite happy to get one, and I'm hoping that council will agree and we can purchase the columbarium today, have a resolution, and so then we can get on the ordering and the end walls as to what we want to name it and engraving. So if anybody has any questions,
Any
please
questions?
ask.
I'm gonna ask Sue. So it's 40, whatever the price is. I'm always for following the procurement policy, and you're requesting that we don't follow the procurement policy for this purchase. Can you give us some update on why you're suggesting that?
Yes, because the first 3 have been purchased by Brunei Monument. We wanted to stay in line with what the 4th one will look at. There's only room for 1 more there, so once we decide on purchasing other ones, we will be going out to RFP or tender. So I just want to stick with Brunei for this one right now.
Thank you.
Councillor Zacharias?
Thank you, Chair. Not having the lockbox won't change the look.
No, the lockbox was just the inside of it. It won't show any difference on the outside. It'll be exactly the same.
Okay, what does the lockbox do? Because I'm picturing people just be able to snatch ashes.
Yeah, it adds for a little bit more security.
Okay.
But, I was in contact with the owner of Brunei, and he said he's never had any problems with anyone snatching without the lockbox, so it's quite secure. Right now, there's a specialized tool that they have to use even to get the plate off, so it's quite secure, so I would have no problem with.
It's an extra layer.
Just an extra layer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So I have a resolution being presented at council after this, so just to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Going to go in camera now. Resolved that this council committee proceed in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All in favor?